that we are not scared to work. While others are sleeping, we are working, and our record of success shows that.
Call Wettermark Keith, the name you know and trust.
Good morning. We are midway through the week. Hope you're looking forward to a good day ahead. For all of you paying attention to the calendar, it is Groundhog Day after all. I know when I was a little girl, probably y'all felt the same way. It was always an exciting time to find out if it was going to be an early spring or a late winter. Took me a while to figure out that ever famous groundhog really was a pretty good bettor because he couldn't lose either way. Thom Benson joins us this morning with the Tennessee Aquarium, who says, yep, Punxsutawney Phil did not see his shadow, or he did see his shadow.
Yeah, Punxsutawney Phil did see his shadow, but, you know.
It's a safe bet.
Can you see my little friend here?
I like your little friend, Tom. I feel like I'm watching Caddyshack.
That's right. So, in Chattanooga, of course, we've got a cloudy start to the day, so the groundhog would not have seen his shadow. And, you know, when we had Chattanooga Chuck at the Tennessee Aquarium, we really tried to, get across to everybody that they're remarkable animals. They live right here in the Southeast, but they are true hibernators, so they would make pretty poor prognosticators because groundhogs in the wild are doing what they do best this time of year, and that's napping.
Now, you told me something, I think I heard you correctly, that Susie Grant, who used to come on the show, actually went to Pennsylvania to bring Chuck home when he was just a baby.
Right, and so it was that long-term relationship and building of trust between the animal caretakers and the animal that really led to Chuck's longevity here at the aquarium, and also the way that he really woke up on Groundhog Day. He seemed to enjoy being in front of audiences here at the Tennessee Aquarium, and when we would take him to places like Channel 3, I remember one time we brought him to the Channel 3 studios and did an interview with Cindy Sexton, and one of the things that we always did with Chuck is, if he didn't want to come out of his enclosure and back up, that's fine, it was his choice, but when he open up the transport crate door, he would just hop right in there most times and just really be happy to perform. But we took him over to Channel 3 one time and he didn't want to come out of the crate. We said, that's okay. Susie said, let me see if we can just undo the top and lift it off so everybody can see him a little bit better. And he was happy as a clam just sitting there in his box, even with the top off. But we never forced him to do anything that he chose not to do. And so I think that, the way that we were able to, use him as an ambassador animal to talk about the fact that these are really unique members of the squirrel family. They live here in the Southeast. They're one of the few true hibernators in our area. And, by extension, giving people an opportunity to have an up-close encounter with a really remarkable animal is something that we really enjoyed. We are searching for a replacement for Chattanooga Chuck, and we hope to do so, but we really want to be careful and make sure we get the right fit. We want to have a repeat success of Chattanooga Chuck, and so it is taking some time, but when we finally identify the right animal, it'll be a great thing.
Well, I should have done my own homework, so phooey on me for having not done it, but I wonder if there's such hibernators and not these great forecasters. I wonder how the folklore ever got started.
So it's an English tradition. It came over with the immigrants that moved to the United States. There was a celebration around Candlemas Day, which was in early February. It's kind of that midpoint between the spring equinox and the winter solstice. And so you had this midpoint in a celebration, and even in Europe, groundhogs don't appear. So there's a lot of fun with the folklore. But what we tried to do was say, there are other animals that have other folklore associated with them. There's different folklore about sharks and fish and birds, and even sea creatures like urchins and cuttlefish that was collected in a really interesting document called Signal Service Notes Number 9, which was produced by the Signal Service, which was the forerunner to the National Weather Service, way back in 1883. And back in those times, remember, meteorology was a pretty a field of science that was in its infancy. And General William B. Hazen said, you know what, the European meteorologists are studying this weather folklore, so maybe we should collect some stories and see if there's any truth to this and try to see if we can advance the science. And they collected really this kind of interesting slice of Americana, because all walks of life submitted these stories about eagles and other creatures, and again, even some surprising ones like sea creatures, and all of these weather stories. So are animals really telling us about the weather? No, but they're responding to weather changes. They sense the natural world in much different ways than we do, and it's important for their survival. So tarantulas, for example, live in a very desert area, and they have the ability to sense changes in relative humidity and the moisture in the air, and they know that there's going to be some rain falling, so they are going to scurry down on their burrows and get to a safe place before you have like one of those torrential downpours in a desert area. So animals have ways of sensing the world around them that our senses just aren't tuned into.
Right.
And so there's a whole lot of really interesting weather folklore. So I'd encourage folks to just kind of noodle around on the internet and look up weather folklore, because there are some really cool stories. And come see the aquarium animals and think about how catfish were viewed back in the day, and butterflies and other creatures like alligators that moved into deeper water when hurricanes would come into the southern swamps of lower Florida.
Well, let me ask you this, okay? And when you're making your tour at the aquarium, also think about getting a ticket to the IMAX, because y'all have got two fun showings coming up. One is called Moonfall.
Moonfall, yeah. So if you're, I'm going to put this in sort of a dietary terms, right? If you're looking for a square meal with all the elements, Moonfall's not for you. Moonfall is a disaster film. It's sort of the cotton candy. It's going to be a lot of fun to see. This is a movie that is a science fiction thriller with a lot of big special effects. Something happens to the moon. It knocks it out of its orbit, and it threatens the Earth. So Halle Berry and Patrick Wilson and John Bradley are the three main characters that come together with this rescue mission to go up there and save the Earth. And again, it's just a lot of fun. The director, Roland Emmerich, is known for his films like Stargate and Independence Day, and that big thriller that I'm sure the Storm Alert team there is very familiar with, The Day After Tomorrow, which was a weather calamity that was very popular several years ago. So again, it's a big science fiction disaster film. It would be a lot of fun to watch on that giant 6-story screen, but again, it's all fluff and no substance.
Hey, sometimes those are the best. Okay, one that is all substance, people are still talking about it, was the Beatles Get Back tour. What a fantastic documentary. Y'all are bringing that to the IMAX for 3 days only, is that right?
Yeah, and so many people probably saw the docuseries Get Back on Disney Plus, and it really gave you this intimate look of how the Get Back album was put together and how they actually, created the songs that are such well-known hits today. They gave you a glimpse of the Rooftop Concert, which happened on January 30th in 1969. It was the last live performance of all of the Beatles in one place, and this film is that material, but it's a 1-hour film, and you get 42 minutes of that Rooftop Concert from start to finish. They climbed up to the roof of their Apple Corps Studios headquarters in London. They didn't announce it to the public, so in the docuseries, you saw the reaction from people on the streets. Some people were elated. Other people were cranky because they were making too much noise in the neighborhood. And so it was really fun to see those behind-the-scenes stories. But what I missed as a Beatles fan was I really wanted to see that show from start to finish. So this footage has been optimized for IMAX experience. So the IMAX with laser projection system here at the Tennessee Aquarium, the audio and the visuals are going to look stunning. And Peter Jackson, the film's director, said that this footage has been lovingly restored, and it's going to look like it was just shot yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And so I think it'll be a remarkable experience. We only have 3 shows: Valentine's Day weekend on Friday the 11th, 6 p.m., and then Saturday and Sunday 2 p.m. shows. And those tickets are really selling fast. So I hope people will go online and purchase those in advance, because I do think it will be a very special experience to see it on the big screen at IMAX.
So Tom, were you saying then that what you're going to see is only the 42-minute concert, not the lead-in? Is that correct?
There will be a little bit around it, because the entire film is about an hour in length, but that Rooftop Concert only lasted 42 minutes.
Got it.
Those of you who saw, kind of spoiler alert here, those of you who saw the docuseries on Disney Plus, remember that the Bobbies were called, the police in
Right.
London, to shut that down because of the complaints of noise in the neighborhood. So they really didn't, finish an entire concert. It was just 42 minutes of them playing some of the most well-known hits, and actually some of the audio from those performances. I think there was maybe 3 tracks or so that actually made it onto the Get Back album.
What's so amazing, my husband and I watched the whole thing. Fun fact, his boss was the manager of the Beatles, and he's in that docuseries.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cool?
Wow. That is very cool.
That was kind of fun for us to watch. But we were watching it, and so for people who didn't get to see it on Disney Plus, I think the big takeaway for me in watching the whole docuseries was to see how they created that music. So you'll hear these songs that are just rote memory favorite songs for us, but they literally were creating them, brainstorming in those studio sessions over, what was it, Tom, a 4-week period or something like that? It was insane.
It was an incredibly short time, and at one point, they're kind of getting their energy and their creative juices flowing, so they're playing songs from other artists and just kind of having a good time playing together. And I think that one of the other things that was fascinating for me was you always heard that this was the greatest songwriting team ever, and that you saw that unfold in the docuseries. The other part was that they were really having a good time together. We heard all the stories about how much at the end there was back and forth, and Paul McCartney even talked about this this movie coming out and said, looking back at it, I could see how much fun we were having. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty remarkable, that, in 50 years' time, there's kind of these myths about the legendary, group.
Right.
But you had a witness to that history, and you'll have an opportunity to have kind of front row seats to that rooftop concert at IMAX.
I'm having to wrap it up, but yeah, it's a fantastic one to go see. So Tom, thanks for your time. Now we know some Groundhog folklore. We can all just choose to be optimists or pessimists and say it's an early spring or a late winter, your choice.
And you can go celebrate the fact that it's Tuesday, 2/2/2022.
Even though it's Wednesday today.
Yeah.
Okay. teaandaqua.org as Tom waves goodbye.
Make your house a home at Badcock Home Furniture and More's